Hi everyone, Mel from Wildly Curious here. I'm not in my usual habitat today, we're in the back garden instead because we're on full lockdown now. So today we're going to talk about a knife safety guide. This is the one for parents. One of the things that we do here at Wildly Curious is teach young people how to use knives safely. Parents are often quite nervous about allowing their children to handle knives, particularly if they're not used to handling them themselves. In this guide for parents, we'll tell you what you need to know. The knives that we mainly use with the young people that we work with are these, a Halterfer's safety knife. They're excellent for beginners. They have a plastic sheath, a sturdy handle with a good finger guard and a rounded blade end. This can help to prevent puncture injuries. They are made from carbon steel rather than stainless, which is why they're not very shiny. Carbon steel holds its edge beautifully, so these will stay sharp for a good amount of time. And remember, a sharp knife is much safer than a blunt one. If you're buying your child a knife for woodworking projects, we'd recommend also buying them a first aid kit and keeping it with the knife. Teach them how to treat small cuts. Also teach them to always let an adult know if they've cut themselves. Next, set some ground rules. When are they allowed to use their knife? Whereabouts are they allowed to use it? And where will it be stored? The young people that we work with are taught a number of specific points about safe knife use. We teach our young people about their blood bubble. This is the amount of space that they need around them to keep themselves and others safe while they're using a knife. We usually say this is the length of their arm plus the length of the knife all the way around them and over the top as well, just in case there are any low-hanging branches. If someone enters their blood bubble, as the knife user, it's their responsibility to stop what they're doing and ask the person to give them more space. When you use a knife, the fingers of your other hand are the most vulnerable. Always ask yourself, where will the knife go if it slips? And if the answer is, into my other hand, you're not holding the wood properly. Always keep your other hand behind the direction of the knife. While your fingers are most vulnerable, the parts of your body that it's most dangerous to cut are your femoral arteries running down the inside of your legs. If you sever a femoral artery, you would bleed out within a couple of minutes. We call this the triangle of death, and it refers to this area here. You might be thinking that all this sounds terrifying, but we believe that it's vital for our young people to understand the importance of safe knife use and to use their knives with care and respect. Protecting the triangle of death is actually very straightforward. We teach our young people to use their knives standing and working off to one side, but not over their laps. Once they've worked with us for some time and are more competent, they can kneel with their knees together or sit with their knees together, but always working off to one side. We teach our young people that if your knife is in your hand, you don't move your feet. Never walk around with an unsheathed knife. Your knife always goes back into your sheath when you finish using it or when you need to move. This is how we teach our young people to remove a knife from a sheath and to replace it safely. When removing the knife from a sheath, hands well out of the way of where the knife is going to be, and then you just take the knife out gently. To replace the knife in the sheath, we teach the children to turn the back of the blade towards the sheath, and when they feel it touch the sheath, then they turn it and poke it in. The reason for this being is that if you're not paying attention and you do this and you miss the opening of the sheath here, you'll end up going across your knuckles. In doing it this way, if you miss, the back of the blade, which is obviously not sharp, will hit your knuckles and you'll be absolutely fine. So, like this, turn the knife, put it in the sheath. These sheaths are really good because once the knife is in it, it won't fall out. You may want to consider putting a cord onto the knife sheath. If your child is using their knife in a standing position, it means that the sheath is always to hand and they can't step on it and break it. We recommend that your child uses green wood for whittling. That is wood that has just been freshly cut, where possible. It's a lot easier to work than seasoned or dried wood. With green wood, much less pressure on the blade is required. Less pressure equals less chance of the blade slipping, which equals less chance of injuries. We teach young people to use the part of the blade closest to the handle. Using this part will give them the most control over the blade. If they keep forgetting, we draw a face on the blade with permanent marker just to remind them. Lastly, a quick mention about UK knife law. The type of knives that we're using have a fixed blade. They're not legal to carry in a public place in the UK, and therefore you shouldn't take these into a public woodland or park or so on. If you want to find out more about UK knife law, you can visit the .gov.uk website and search for knife law.